recognize Senator Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. LaPlante, first off, thank you for each of you being here. Dr. LaPlante, I've been here about 3 years, and my background is in business. And one thing I've watched since I've been up here is it seems like what defense does, they do a lot of research, development, but you don't get it to fruition. If we did that in business, we'd all go bankrupt. And so what do you think you can do that's going to change that, where we don't just research everything and never develop it to something that's going to help us defend the country?
Senator Scott, I appreciate the question. I believe that industry and small business and innovators have to see there's a chance they're going to get whatever they do in research into a production line. And so we have to have the metrics. If we don't get things into a production line, that we're not succeeding. That's what we have to do.
So a year from now, what are you going to come back and say, hey, I changed this process and this is why it works better now?
Yeah, two things, Senator. One would be to up the production lines of the production lines we currently have, so munitions, UASs, just get them higher production. But the second is work on all the weapon systems across the Valley of Death to make sure we're injecting technology into the systems we have. Because we have the program officers over here that have the weapon systems, we have the technologists over here. We have to make that pipeline go and make it a metric for success.
So what's a private company that you would say they know how to take something from research and development to actual use quickly that you would use as a best practices?
Well, I think SpaceX is one. SpaceX is a private company. They also do business with the government, but they're doing an agile software development processes to get to a launch every 2 weeks on their critical launch capability. That's a speed that is just unheard of, and so it can be done. I think they have to see that. The other piece is I think that small businesses and industry have to see it that there's skin in the game, that they have a viable line of business if they're successful in innovating. They don't just get a one-off contract for a prototype. But SpaceX is an example of just rapid innovation.
So are there any standards where the private sector says we spend this much on research and development before things get to something that's going to be useful that you would be able to apply?
Well, I think what I understand the private sector does, and we saw this when we were doing the agile software study, was they do it incremental at a time. They'll do some research, come back in 90 days, 2 months, 3 months, say, what do you got for it? And if it's not paying off within 6 months, they'll stop and go to something else. But so that's something the DoD does not do generally. We've got to move to those much more agile approaches. So a lot of private business, they're simultaneously having a lot of these R&D efforts going on at the same time, but they will stop them immediately if it's not paying off.
And you think you have the ability to do that?
In software, I think we do. What I don't know about, Senator, and I'd like to find out, should I be confirmed, is if we can bring those agile approaches to more hardware-centric systems. That if we're doing the research and we're doing tests and we say, nope, we got to stop that, or do 3 at the same time and do a best-of-breed bake-off within 6 months.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Adams, do you support the modernization of U.S. nuclear deterrence, and do you have any concerns with the current modernization schedule?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I do support the current modernization efforts. I have concerns in general about our ability to meet schedule. If confirmed, I will dig into the details of that and see if there are looming problems that would cause us to not meet schedule.
Are you committed to make sure that our annual budget requests for defense programs will be sufficient to support the DoD military requirements?
Yes, Senator.
And what if they weren't? What would you do? What if you said we have to have this, and the people above you said, no, we're not going to do that. We just don't want to spend the money like that. What would you do?
Well, I would certainly have the conversation with Jill Ruby, and I've got a lot of confidence in her as far as being receptive to that message.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Scott.